Friends, we are extremely happy that we have got a very special person this evening to tell us about the reminiscences of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Bhuteshananda Maharaj is a senior vice president of the Ramakrishna Order, and he had a great fortune to meet the 10 direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna and the Holy Mother, the spiritual consort of the Master. We read from the books. Sometimes I say, when we read the Sermon on the Mount, we get one effect. But when somebody comes and tells us that I was present when that sermon was given, I know it. I heard directly from the Master. That person, his sayings, his conversations become so vivid, so interesting to us. So tonight we shall hear those memoirs from the Swami. I know the Swami last 28 years, and he's a very special person in my life. You remember when he used to come to Advaita Ashrama in 1958, 1960. Sometimes we used to hide his shoes so that he may not go away to Belur Math. Or sometimes we used to dip his t-shirt or shirt into the water so that it get wet so that he cannot leave us. So we wanted to know many things from him, and he had really great privilege to get acquainted with these direct disciples intimately. Very few Swamis like him in India is alive. So it is our great privilege, great fortune that we got him in this time, and especially in connection with the golden jubilee of our society. Swami visits almost every year to Japan, Singapore and other countries. This is the first time he is visiting the United States of America. He came to Los Angeles in August, then he visited Sacramento, Berkeley, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, now St. Louis. From here he will go to Chicago on Monday, then New York, Boston, Buffalo, Toronto, London, back to Singapore, and then Calcutta. That he has a long tour. So anyhow, in the bulletin perhaps you have noticed that we put only on Thursday, means today. But I requested him, Maharaj, you have so many things to say, in 1 hour is not great, it is not you cannot cover everything in 1 hour, so we are thinking to get this holy company next 2 days, today, tomorrow and day after tomorrow. Means Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all 3 evenings at 8 o'clock, and Sunday morning at 10:30 he will speak what is Vedanta. So I shall not take much time from him. Now the Swami will tell us the reminiscences. And we want to keep this thing recorded so that we may not miss it.
Will it catch my sound?
Of course, it will.
Friends, your Swami Chaitanyananda has kept many surprises for me. One of those is this evening's meeting here in a more or less formal way. He just informed me that we shall just a few of us will meet you in the evening, and it will be your reminiscences on the Holy Mother that we shall expect to hear from you. But I find it has given it a shape of a formal meeting, as it were. There was no such talk before, and I cannot praise him for this kind of surprise attack. The first thing that I tell you in the beginning is, don't be disappointed if I mention that I met the Holy Mother only once in my life. That was about 2 years before her passing away. Only once, I tell you. So much of reminiscence of her as direct experience of my company with Holy Mother is concerned, I have very little to say. As you may be already aware, that Holy Mother was born in a village far away from city life and remained throughout her life as a very shy village girl. Even though people had been visiting her from far and near by not only hundreds but thousands, she continued to remain hidden in her veil before everybody except the very intimate boys who were in touch with her and some women devotees. I mentioned that one occasion when I met her, it happened to be one of the birthday anniversaries of her birth, of her birthday anniversaries. There were many devotees who had been coming to pay their respects to her from morning, and we went there in the evening along with a very senior monk of our order. He was known as Jnan Maharaj or Brahmachari Jnan. He was a direct disciple of Swamiji, Swami Vivekananda, who told him to remain a brahmachari throughout his life. So he did not take sannyas, he remained a brahmachari, but very much respected by all the monks of the order. It was with him that we went to pay our respects to the Holy Mother. We were a number of youngsters who used to keep close association with Brahmachari Jnan Maharaj. So he took us to the Holy Mother, and Holy Mother was staying upstairs. We were in the ground floor and we just expressed, again Maharaj expressed his desire to pay his respects to the Holy Mother. One of the attendants of the Holy Mother mentioned that Holy Mother was being visited by hundreds of devotees from the morning onwards, and she is very tired. So, Jnan Maharaj, you come here and pay your respects, but not your troop that have come with you. Jnan Maharaj said with folded hands, addressing the Holy Mother upstairs, just mention that if my boys cannot pay their respects to the Holy Mother, touching her holy feet, I also pay my respects from here alone. That settled the matter. The attendant said, in that case, please come one by one and pay your respects to the Holy Mother. Then we went. That is how we met. But it is not that we had not heard about Holy Mother, but I don't know why. It was perhaps my misfortune that I never thought of meeting her directly, simply because of the thought that to meet such a holy personage, it requires a lot of spiritual preparation. We were too much unprepared for that great occasion, so I fought shy of coming close to her. Anyway, that day it was the privilege once for all to touch her holy feet, but could not see her face as she had a long veil at that time. Face could not be seen, nor could I talk to her. Of course, that was not my lot only. Many of the devotees who were even initiated by her could not have a view of her face without the veil. That was Holy Mother's nature. And when devotees asked questions concerning their own spiritual life, the Holy Mother would reply in such a low voice that it would be almost inaudible. So there used to be two very old lady devotees who were always in her company. They used to just speak out to the devotees so that they could understand what Holy Mother might be saying. That was Holy Mother's practice. Those who had the good fortune of meeting her in her birthplace, Jairamati, there she was more free and meeting the devotees freely. But in Calcutta, she became a shy village girl all through her life. That was my misfortune, and yet I can take pride of that one occasion in my life that I had the good fortune of touching her holy feet. She remained that way, hidden in her veil throughout her life. Even when Sri Ramakrishna, towards the end of his life, when he insisted that the Holy Mother will have to take charge of ministration to the devotees who are coming in thousands, Holy Mother said, I cannot do that. I am simply a woman. What can I do? He said, you must come forward and help me. Sri Ramakrishna was aware that a great mission was there waiting for the great spiritual wave that was to be spread through it. But Holy Mother was found to be reluctant to take active part in it. Sri Ramakrishna encouraged her to do that. With utmost persuasion, he had to ultimately make her agree to that great mission that Sri Ramakrishna was leaving for the next generation, of whom Holy Mother will be the leading personality. His direct disciples were there, but before the direct disciples were banded into a brotherhood, the Holy Mother was being prepared to take the responsibility of being the Holy Mother for the whole band of devotees that are coming, monastic or lay. So Holy Mother was prepared for that. As you are aware from your knowledge of the books, that Holy Mother was worshipped literally by Sri Ramakrishna when he offered all his spiritual wealth to the Holy Mother. The great heritage that was bequeathed to her was for the upliftment of the people who are to come later on. And Holy Mother was made completely prepared for that. What I mean is that Holy Mother was not in any way a less spiritual personality, but she had to be unveiled. She had to be persuaded to take the position that was awaiting for her. And Sri Ramakrishna's wish prevailed. So the mother became the mother of not only thousands but millions of people from all over the world. Really, we looked upon the Holy Mother as the head of the whole Ramakrishna Order, though legally speaking, Swami Brahmananda, the spiritual child of Ramakrishna, was made the first president of the order by Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda himself looked upon the Holy Mother for all strength and inspiration for the great mission that he was just launching upon. Now that is how Swamiji looked upon the Holy Mother. You can understand the great respect that Swami Vivekananda had for the Holy Mother. Once he said, addressing his brother disciples, brothers, you do not be offended if I say that none of you has understood what great power Holy Mother hides in herself. She is a great towering personality in spirituality, and her powers will be known in course of time. Swamiji was there to appreciate, to understand, more directly, more profoundly than even his brother disciples, who were each of them great stalwarts in spiritual life. So that is the immensity of the spiritual power that you can imagine the Holy Mother possessed. That was Holy Mother. Yet, to all intents and purposes, she was supposed to be a very innocent village girl, as it were. As if she knew nothing. She said, I don't know anything. Well, Sri Ramakrishna himself also said in that manner that I don't know anything except God. So Holy Mother also said, I don't know anything. But she knew one thing, Sri Ramakrishna, as the highest spiritual manifestation, and whatever inspiration she had was from Sri Ramakrishna himself. And actually she later on confessed that she was the same personality as it were, in a different shape, in a different mask, as it were. Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother are considered to be the devotees as the twin personalities, but one reality only. They represented one personality in two phases, and that was necessary, because Sri Ramakrishna was such a deep ocean that very few could understand him or fathom his depth, and therefore felt scared in his presence. But Holy Mother never posed that problem to anybody. She was easily accessible to all devotees as the mother. Particularly among the women devotees, she did not keep any difference in her behavior. The devotees, women devotees, girls particularly, they came to meet the mother. Mother would make them even sleep in the same bed with her. They were so made to be so familiar, and they felt in the presence of the mother just as children before their own mother. Now that is how the relation developed particularly among women, and among men devotees also. They felt the same way, though mother kept a little distance from them for the purpose of social safety, so that they could remain separated at the same time, pay their respects and be inspired by her. That is how the relation grew among the devotees. Even when we were later on monks, at that time also, Holy Mother was never made to appear before the common public. Even her picture, her photos were not available from market or anywhere. It was kept a secret. Only a few lucky devotees who were in very close touch could procure a picture of the Holy Mother. So I said in one meeting that we tried to keep her veiled and hidden from the public, but she has unveiled herself and made herself manifested before the people with all her glory. That I mentioned that in a meeting during her birthday centenary. Now that is how it took 100 years for people to be easily acquainted with the Holy Mother's life and the great mission she was having. The respect that Holy Mother commanded over the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna can be understood from one small incident. Once Swami Shivananda, who was the head of the order at that time, the second president of the Ramakrishna Order, he found that a brahmachari had committed some offense. So he told him, "You go away from the mott. You have no place here." Brahmachari, with tears in his eyes, left the mott and went straight to Jairambati, the birthplace of the Holy Mother, and told her he has been driven out from the Belur Math. The mother, as an affectionate mother would do, fed her, made him take rest, and then afterwards gave a letter to Swami Shivananda Maharaj, saying with this much, "My dear boy Tarak, Baba Tarak in Bengali, this boy must have committed some offense, but I request that he may be pardoned and given place in Belur Math." When Swami Shivananda saw this letter, he smiled and said, "Clever boy, you have at once appealed to the highest courts." So his offense was pardoned. Now that is how they look upon the Holy Mother. Though she would never interfere in the administration as such directly, but ultimate decision depended upon the Holy Mother. If Holy Mother thought something wrong, whatever she said was always obeyed by everyone, including Swami Vivekananda. When Swamiji, by Swamiji I mean Swami Vivekananda always, we familiarly refer to him as Swamiji. When Swamiji was thinking of coming to the West, he hesitated. He saw a vision that Sri Ramakrishna beckoned him to, he was just going over the seas and beckoning Swamiji to follow him. That was an indication or a command that Swamiji was to come to the West for the mission. But Swamiji said, I shall not move unless I get direct command from the Holy Mother. So Holy Mother blessed him and said, yes, it is Sri Ramakrishna who wants you to go to the West. Please go with confidence, he is there. And then with Mother's blessings, Swamiji left. Swamiji said casually in one place that Hanuman, the great servant of Rama in the Ramayana, Hanuman took the name of Sita and jumped over the ocean to reach Lanka, the Ceylon. And I have taken Mother's name and I have jumped the ocean and came to this country. That is how Swamiji drew inspiration from the Holy Mother. And another point is always remembered by us. After the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, his young band of devotees who had taken the vow of renunciation were then filled with the spirit of renunciation and living very austere life. They scattered away over various places and were immersed in meditation, exclusively spending their time in spiritual practices. The first monastery at Baranagar in Calcutta, a suburb of Calcutta, there they had no means to keep many of the disciples together. There was no means financially, they had no source of income to feed people, so they got scattered. This pained Holy Mother very much. She prayed to Sri Ramakrishna, Thakur, you have taken birth in this world and suffered so much, but will it come to nothing afterwards? Your disciples are scattered, they have no means of livelihood in Belur Math. Please see that they get enough food and clothing and stay at one place so that your thoughts may be carried by them to the world at large in different directions. Otherwise the mission will be simply scattered and no effective instrument for spreading the message will be prolonged. And Holy Mother's prayer was heard and Belur Math could be organized there gradually. And we who came later on had food and clothing without any difficulty. It is because of Mother's blessings, we feel. That is how it is said that Holy Mother's blessings is the mainstay of the monastic order of Ramakrishna. It once happened that there was some famine raging and Swamiji wanted that relief work should be carried on. So he was trying to organize relief on a big scale. Somebody remarked that it will require a huge amount of money. Where from will that money come, Swamiji? Swamiji said, in that case we shall sell the Math property, and spend for the relief work. But Holy Mother remonstrated, no, Narayan should not do that. The Math should not be sold. It will have to be maintained and relief work can be carried on through public charity alone, so that mother's advice prevailed. In that way, we say mother has maintained the idea that the organization should be maintained without any kind of, say, step which may spell ruin to the order. That is how organization has been fed and clothed and maintained in its work of service to mankind. The Holy Mother saw it with her prophetic vision, the future of the mott, and she paved the way for the smooth growth of the organization in every way. That is how, though she was supposed to be a village girl, she was at the head of the organization actually. It is the spiritual head of the organization, giving inspiration and guidance whenever necessary, without coming into the limelight at any time. That is how the Holy Mother lived. And later on, when people began to stream towards the Mother, in thousands they used to come, and Holy Mother was there to accept them as her children. In her birthplace, Jairambati, they were very poor, their financial circumstances were very poor, and yet she would take care of feeding the devotees and making their stay comfortable, herself doing most of the work. When gradually financial position improved, the devotees began to contribute something towards the maintenance of the Holy Mother. Holy Mother did not leave the family. She was there with her brother's family and their children. He used to look after them, never left the family atmosphere there, but yet remained perfectly in spirit of renunciation. She was detached all along, and yet she lived with the family to show that even family people can be with God in spite of their family duties. Mother never shirked any duty. Sri Ramakrishna was perhaps an instance of the man of he was a man of spirit, a man of renunciation. He had no connection with anybody except his disciples. Of course, he was also mindful of his duties towards Mother and towards the Holy Mother also. But Sri Ramakrishna was the ideal sannyasi in all respects. But Holy Mother represented even the ideal of a householder, how a householder can live in God, though in the midst of family environment. That is a special ideal that was needed at that time, that Sri Ramakrishna could not fulfill that ideals. It was Holy Mother who showed the ideal of a householder as well as a monastic member. Now that is how Holy Mother's special role is there. So the Ramakrishna movement would be incomplete if we take only Sri Ramakrishna as the ideal. Holy Mother participated with Sri Ramakrishna in making that ideal more comprehensive, so that it may suit all people from whatever walk of life they come. Now that is Holy Mother's special role, which is unique in the world. There is no other instance anywhere that a woman, however saintly, could command such a position that she would remain an ideal for generations to come. That was the great influence that Holy Mother spread through her simple life, but full of motherly affection for everybody. Once our Holy Mother's mother just regretted that my daughter has got no children. Sri Ramakrishna heard it and said, "Your daughter will have so many children that she will be tired of hearing mother, mother, mother everywhere." Swami Sri Ramakrishna's remark was partly correct, because really there was a demand on her as mother from everywhere, but she was never tired of that. So it was not fully fulfilled. That was Holy Mother's role. She said that everywhere all are my children, even the downtrodden, the sinner, the burglar, everywhere they said they are all my children. There was a dacoit who was notorious for that role. She came in touch with Holy Mother and just came to her as to an affectionate mother, and she accepted that dacoit, and remarked that as Sharat is my son, Sharat means Swami Saradananda, who later on took the responsibility of the General Secretary of the Order. As Sharat is and who was the attendant of Holy Mother throughout her days, she said that as Sharat is my child, similarly Amjad, that dacoit's name, is also my child. There is no difference to me. Somebody complained that such and such person is a wicked person and should be avoided. He should not be allowed to mix with people here, to come here. Mother said, "What do you say? If a child gets soiled, does the mother throw him away? No, the mother picks the child up, cleans it, and takes it in her arms. So that is my duty as mother, not to shun anybody." That is mother's role. There somebody remarked, Swami Premananda remarked, that Sri Ramakrishna was selective in choosing his disciples, but Holy Mother never did that. She never judged anybody by his merit, but because she looked upon everybody as her child, so everybody has a demand on her, and which she always fulfilled. That is Holy Mother's role in the group of devotees who came to her. Now, in another instance, she said, well, at that time the great national movement was going on, and people were boycotting British goods, because the British people had been ruling over India in a way which was cruel, considered by the people there. So somebody remarked, "Mother, we should not buy anything made by the British." Mother said, "What do you say? The British they are also my children. There is none, whoever it may be, good or bad, they are all my children. I cannot shun anybody." That was Mother's feeling. She said once that, it was Ramakrishna who said, there will come many devotees who have got different colors and about whose language sometimes I do not understand. But that prediction came true, Many people from different cultures and different nationalities came to her, and she received them cordially, just as an affectionate mother does. When Sister Nivedita went to her, she embraced her as her daughter, and in those days it was the custom to keep aloof from non-Hindu people. So the social restrictions were there. But for mother there was no restriction. She received Sister Nivedita, and just treated as if she were her daughter. And Nivedita also looked upon the Holy Mother as such. Various references are there in her books where she said Holy Mother was so affectionate that she could not feel in her presence anything but a little child. That was Holy Mother's influence.
Now it's continuing formal direct disciples you can tell.
Now? My goodness.
Some, one or two. You can cover Mother. Or if you want to say Mother.
I shall begin just a few remarks about Swami Brahmananda. About Swami Vivekananda, as you know, it was not possible for me to meet him. He passed away in 1902 and I was born in 1901. So I say we breathed the same air, we basked in the same sun. That much. Then next comes the first president of the Ramakrishna Order. Swami Vivekananda made Swami Brahmananda, his brother disciple, first president of the order. Swamiji was himself president of the Ramakrishna Association. So, what is it called? Association Society. Association. But yet that formal establishment of the order was not done. Later on, when mission was started, Swamiji selected Swami Brahmananda to be the first president. As he said, he is the king among us, Raja. So popularly he used to be called by us Raja Maharaj. So he is the Raja, so he should be the first president. Now Raja Maharaj was really princely in his behavior. He was so much spiritually, in these tendencies, in his behavior, he was so spiritually immersed in spirituality that he will find that he would hardly have that sort of pose as a spiritual man. Spirituality became natural to him. When people used to meet him, he would rarely talk about spirituality unless the person was very much eager to learn about something. And when he felt that the man was prepared to receive spiritual instruction, then only he would mention things spiritual. Otherwise, he would just cut jokes with people, but everybody felt attracted to him. In his presence, there was a spiritual atmosphere. The whole gathering would be surcharged with that feeling. So a spiritual tone was always kept up there. We were then just boys. We used to visit in Calcutta. They used to stay in Balaram Babu's house, a disciple of Ramakrishna, where all the disciples, younger disciples, used to meet often, and some of them would stay there. Swami Brahmananda used to stay in that house mainly because he was terribly afraid of malaria, which was raging in Belur Math. So Maharaj used to avoid Belur Math, especially spending night there in that mosquito-infected area. So he used to stay at Balaram Babu's house, and we used to visit there. Many people among us used to go there often. Sometimes he would just speak about things that would amuse us all, but at times he became so grave that we did not have the courage to approach him. One day he was pacing in the veranda of the house, all alone, absorbed in his own thoughts, when I went and prostrated before him. He wanted to avoid without making me unhappy. Said, I am not feeling well today. We understood that was the way he wanted to avoid company at such times. We did not have that idea of not disturbing great religious men in their when they are indrawn in their mood. So anyway, that happened that day. Otherwise, he was very freely mixing with younger people as well as elder people. One day, it so happened that one of the devotees brought his friend to meet Maharaj, Swami Brahmananda, at that Balaram Babu's house. He came with high hopes, feeling that Maharaj certainly will give spiritual instructions to the friend, and the friend will be impressed. So that way he brought the friend. And then he introduced him there. And the topic was going on, Maharaj went on making fun that day. No spiritual topic was raised. That devotee who brought the friend was disappointed, thinking how awkward it will be. My friend, what impression he will carry of the great Maharaj. But then when they were just taking leave, Maharaj said, just like an innocent child, you see, sometimes we talk spiritual things also. And then they left. Then the devotee who brought the newcomer, he felt that a great disappointment that today Maharaj did not give any spiritual instruction. But on the way, the newcomer told the devotee, today I have seen the first time in my life, I have seen a man full of joy, full of happiness, full of peace. He's exuding happiness everywhere as it were. This is the first instance in my life that I have seen such a great personality. So even through fun you could convert a man like that. There is another instance in this connection. There were 3 young men who went to visit the places of pilgrimage in south. Casually they went to Bhubaneswar. Bhubaneswar is the capital of one of the provinces, Odisha in India. There they stayed in a hotel and casually asked the hotel manager, what are the things worth seeing here? The hotel manager mentioned some of the things, and then lastly he mentioned, and there is a branch of the Belur Math here. But the math is meant for only aristocratic people. They have a big compound, and the head of the math lives a very luxurious life. He has got a gorgora, that is a smoking instrument. Hubble bubble nobody understands. That is an instrument for smoking. And Maharaj, he smokes from that gold thing, that gold made of gold. So the young men with their young spirit of reformation said, but can't you teach him a lesson? They said, how can we? He is visited by so many important people. We could not dare to say anything. They said, all right, we shall go and teach him a lesson. Then they came to visit Maharaj in the Bhuvaneshwar Math. At that time he was just living in the living room with some of the attendants. He told the attendants to go out of the room and close the door, inside doors, and was ready to receive the newcomers. The Swamis, those who were attending on him, they did not know the visitors, but then thought that there must be something very important, why Maharaj asked us to go out and close the doors inside. After that, they were eager to hear what talks go on there. They could not overhear much, but they could hear the people inside were rolling with laughter. That much they could hear. And that way, for some time, Maharaj was with them and they left. The young men returned to the hotel, and the hotel manager asked them, what is your impression of the great luxurious Swami? They said, we have seen for the first time a man full of joy and happiness, spreading joy everywhere. We have never seen a person like that. They were so impressed that every day they prolonged their stay, and every day they would regularly come to the Maharaj. That way the impression, how he makes create that impression, we do not know, but the impression was such that none had to be disappointed. Whoever came, whether to praise or to blame, they were immediately converted by the great spiritual giant, by simply, sometimes by his appearance, sometimes by a few words, meeting everybody in his own way. That was the great insight of Maharaj. And as the president, he had to attend meetings of the trustees of the order. Then he would hardly like to attend meetings, but they would sometimes persuade him to come and just preside over the meeting. He would sit quiet, and the discussions would go on. And afterwards, at the end, the assistant secretary at that time, Swami Shivananda, he would ask Maharaj, what will be the decision now? He said, this is the decision. At once the minute book was written. No discussion. Maharaj, whatever Maharaj says, is final, and nobody had to add anything to it. That was the insight Maharaj had. And Swamiji, that's why he said that Rakhal, that was his name, Rakhal has got the intellect to rule over a kingdom. That is what he said. একটা রাজ্য চালাতে পারে. He can just administer a whole kingdom. That was the great insight that Maharaj had, a man of few words, but wonderful penetrating intellect and a great judge of persons, always. Never a decision never came to be never failed in any case. That was the Maharaj's greatness. Now my time is up because 9 was the limit and we stop here.
Did you have any conversation with Maharaj any time? Other than
Something I don't remember much. must have had something, but I don't remember. I used to go with some friends on several occasions. We saw him at Belur Math also. During holy season, Holi, that celebration of Holi, where everybody springs colors to others, throwing colors to others. Maharaj would take part there. He would enjoy that. Like that. We saw him like that, as like a child to us, full of fun and frolic. But to others, a great towering personality. Of course, we also sometimes, when he was in that mood, we were awed in his presence. But otherwise, he would be full of fun. That was Maharaj. No more.
How do you remember this is your first meeting with Maharaj?
First meeting, I had been there. He was seated along with some friends. I went and prostrated before him. That is the first meeting. That was the first meeting. And on several occasions we had been there, but never felt encouraged to broach any subject or ask any spiritual instruction at the time. Perhaps I was not fit to receive anything at that time. But one thing prevailed, the great personality and his impression on me remained forever. And
vision. I do not remember seeing anywhere if she bought Sri Ramakrishna's birthplace or how did it come.
kindly relay.
I shall relate to you. He was asking that Holy Mother, got that her birthplace for the Ramakrishna Order, but how did the master's birthplace came to the Ramakrishna Order?
Master?
Kamarpukur. How did the Kamarpukur come?
That came much later. Much later, we wanted to have that land to preserve the memory, but the people who were living there did not part with it. They were not prepared to sell even for a good price because they expected that if they retain that property, they will be perhaps gainer because people's attraction will be there and they will have much more money from there. It's only a commercial business. And so that acquisition of that place came much later. Of course, we had to pay a good price for that, but anyway, at last they parted with that property. And there we started. And in the Holy Mother's place also the same way. We had to pay a heavy price for that. But Holy Mother's house was there in occupation of Holy Mother. So that was our first footing there. Then we gradually acquired the surrounding areas. And after her demise, a temple was built on the place, exact birthplace of the Holy Mother, on that very spot. In the same way, at Kamarpukur, after the land was acquired, the temple was built, but that came later on.
All right, after this tonight. Today you spoke in a formal way, tomorrow informal.
I don't know. If you want informal, you will have to ask questions.
Okay, and I shall prompt. All right, Swami will not shake hands, he will have to please see as much as shake happen. So the people. So see you again tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock. It is, you see, in India, it is very common. The devotees come in the evening, when he is in Kampurgati Jogadan. You see, Sri Ramakrishna's relics was first installed in Kampurgati. It is eastern part of Calcutta, a place. At that time, we have no monastery. The Jadic disciples are young boys in their late teens, early 20s, traveling all around, no place to be. They are all itinerant monks. So one of the householder disciples of Sri Ramakrishna installed the relics of Sri Ramakrishna, and Swami is stationed there. And every afternoon, 1,500, so many people come to him, and he simply after his work he sits and devotees ask questions and he answers. And it is very common in India, evening time they must go to holy person and listen something spiritual. For their spiritual food, after a whole day hard work, they come and evening. That is the time for them to have spiritual food. So tomorrow, next 2 night evenings, we must have our spiritual food from Swami. Thank you. Good night, everybody.